Hello everyone, thank you for joining me for story time. My name is Libby. Today I'm going to be reading Sloth's Birthday Party by Diane Redfield Massey. This is one of the first books I ever bought. I was in maybe second or third grade. I've had this book a very long time. I may or may not have said that before. Sloth's house was a terrible mess. It sat in the kapok tree. "I like a house that looks lived in," said Sloth. "How else can one be comfortable?" He moved the jelly jars over on his washtub and rested his big furry feet. "Sloth!" yelled Toucan outside his window. "We're all going to Rat's house for supper." "Rat's," said Sloth. "Rat's house is too small." "It's a garden supper," said Toucan. "We aren't going inside." Sloth looked out his window. "What if it rains?" he said. "If it rains," said Toucan, "we'll go over to Armadillo's instead." She flapped her wings and flew down to Rat's front yard. "No one ever comes to my house," said Sloth. He leaned on his windowsill and stared at Rat's garden. "Are you coming?" called Rat. "Of course I'm coming," said Sloth. A jelly jar fell out his window and landed in the vines. "It's not right," said Sloth to himself. He rocked back and forth in his broken rocking chair. "I go to their houses. They should come to my house too." He looked at the calendar hanging from his clock. "My birthday's coming up," he said, tapping his claws together. "I'll invite them all to my birthday party. They're sure to come then." He smiled and yawned and settled back in his chair to sleep. By supper time, the sky was dark. Raindrops rattled over the leaves and bounced like beads to the ground. "It's raining, drat it," said Rat, looking out her door. "And I've got the chairs out and everything." She hurried about, shutting her windows. Armadillo ran through the grass. "We'd better get to my house," he called from the front yard, "where we can be inside." "What?" said Sloth, waking up from his nap. "Is it supper time already?" "It's raining," called Toucan. She flew past Sloth's door and landed in the garden. "We're going to Armadillo's after all," she said. Sloth looked out his window. He waved to his friends below. "Why don't you all come to my house?" he called. "In a minute I'll have a fire going in the stove. It's nice to be inside in a storm." "But Sloth," said Rat. "And my house is closer." He shut his window and hurried back to light the fire. "What shall we do?" asked Rat. Armadillo shook his shiny back. Water ran down in little streams. "Well," he said, "we are closer, I suppose." They climbed slowly up the slats that led to Sloth's front porch. "Come in," said Sloth, flinging open his door. It fell off its hinges as it lay by the step. "What a nice night for a supper party," said Sloth. "Inside a cozy, comfortable, lived-in house." We know what that means. "It was nice of you to have us," said Armadillo, looking about. "Where shall we sit?" "You'll find the chairs somewhere," said Sloth. "They're underneath other things." "Oh," said Rat, lifting a sheet off a box. "Oh, not that," said Sloth. "That's the refrigerator." He pulled down a pan hanging from his clothesline and hurried back to his stove. Armadillo sat on an old rush chair. The seat was frayed and thin. "I'll have soup ready in a moment," said Sloth. "I always have soup ready for occasions." Toucan stared at the holes in the roof. The rain was coming through. "It's the same soup every time," said Sloth, "but somehow it always tastes different. Sometimes it tastes stronger than at other times, depending upon what's fallen in." "Fallen in?" said Rat. "You know," said Sloth, "sometimes things get into soup you hadn't planned on." Pitter-patter, pitter-patter, pitter-patter. Everyone listened to the rain overhead. Plink-plunk, plink-plunk, plunk plunk, plink plunk. Pans and dishes lay about the room, catching the falling water. "This roof is like a sieve," said Toucan. Raindrops splashed on her bill. "More like a colander," said Sloth. "There are lots of dry spots." Plink plunk, plink plunk, plunk plunk, plink plunk. Splash sizzle, splash sizzle, splash sizzle. "Drat it," said Sloth. "Just our luck. There's a new leak over the stove." "What does that mean?" asked Armadillo, squirming in his chair. "It means," said Sloth, "that the fire has gone out and our soup will be lukewarm." "Lukewarm is better than cold," said Rat hopefully. Sloth brought out 2 bowls and 2 jelly jars. He set them on top of the wash tub. "The jelly jars hold more," he said, "but they don't look as nice as the bowls." He poured the soup around. "I don't have soup spoons either," he added. "In fact, I only have 1 big serving spoon." "That's all right," said Toucan. "We'll drink our soup." She raised a jelly jar to her bill and swallowed. "Well," said Sloth, "how was it?" "Lukewarm," said Toucan. "Was it good?" asked Rat. "I'm not saying," whispered Toucan. Rat and Armadillo sipped their soup. "Tastes like water," whispered Rat. "Looks like a swamp," said Armadillo. "Unfortunately," said Sloth, draining his jelly jar, "the rain has gotten into it. It's never as good when it rains." "Help!" cried Armadillo. "I'm stuck!" His shell had slipped through the seat and the chair had overturned. "Help! Help!" "Armadillo," said Sloth, "what have you done to my chair?" "What have I done?" shouted Armadillo crossly. "What has it done to me?" "His shell is stuck," said Rat, pushing on the chair. "It won't budge." "I can't go home like this," yelled Armadillo. "Sloth will have to chop it off." "Chop my best chair?" said Sloth. Splash! Water poured down on their heads from above. "The roof's giving way!" yelled Toucan. "Help!" shrieked the others. "No, it isn't," said Sloth. "It's just a big hole. And look at the soup," he shouted. "It's filled to the top with water." "I'm going home," said Rat, shaking water from her whiskers. "So am I," said Toucan. "Thank you, Sloth, for the soup and all." "It was a lovely party," said Rat, "except for the rain." "Lovely," said Toucan. She made swimming motions with her wings and hurried out the door. "Wait for me!" shouted Armadillo, crawling after them. "You can't go down like that." Armadillo stumbled on a pan. He fell against the stove. The legs and back fell off the chair, and the seat cracked down the middle. "Goodbye," said Armadillo, waving both arms. He climbed after Rat, down the slats on the tree at the bottom. Excuse me. Sloth watched them disappear in the darkness. "They didn't like my house. They'll never come to my birthday party." He sat sadly under his umbrella by the stove until the rain had stopped. By morning the sun was up, warming the grass, the vines, and the trees. Sunshine sparkled on the leaves, and the puddles were streaming. Sloth's house was damp. Sunshine came through the hole in his roof and warmed his soggy room. Sloth made his way slowly back and forth, dumping pans of water out the window. Rat waved from below. "Good morning, Sloth," she called. "My birthday's next week," said Sloth, "but I don't suppose anyone will come to my party." "When is it?" asked Rat, hanging her towels to dry. "On Tuesday," said Sloth. He busied himself with his empty pan and waited for Rat to answer. "Everyone's invited, of course," added Sloth, "and no one has to bring presents." He looked hopefully about, but Rat had gone inside. "I knew it," he said. "She's not coming. None of them will come to my party. He went back to his watery work. On Tuesday morning, Sloth woke up early. The sun was shining in his eyes through the hole in his roof. It's my birthday. He got up slowly and stared at himself in the broken mirror above the sink. He brushed his whiskers and smoothed his fur. I'll have a party anyway, said Sloth, just for me. He found a red balloon in his drawer next to his birthday candle and blew it up. I'll hang it from my clothesline, he said. It swung gently back and forth in the sunlight. Sloth spent the morning making a cake. He frosted it with yellow frosting and lit the candle in the center. Then he sat down by his washtub with his serving spoon and sang happy birthday to himself. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, dear Sloth. Happy birthday to me. He made a wish and then blew out his candle. Happy birthday, Sloth! Cried his friends from outside. What? You've come to my party? He clapped his paws and held the cake in the air. I haven't bitten into it yet. Wait till I get some plates. He hurried to his cupboard and brought them out. 3 presents sat next to the washtub. Presents too? Said Sloth. They're useful presents, said Armadillo. Open mine first. Sloth pulled the lavender ribbon from Armadillo's present. Inside the paper was a chair seat, a box of screws, and some glue. And that's not all, said Armadillo. I'm going to fix your chairs. You are? Said Sloth. How nice of you, Armadillo. He opened Toucan's present next. Inside the big box were shingles and nails and a blue-handled hammer. I can fix my roof, said Sloth. He tapped the shingles with the hammer and shook the box of nails. I'll help you, said Toucan. We'll fix it together. Aren't you going to open my present? Asked Rat. Sloth untied the string. I can't believe it. It's 4 spoons and 2 bowls. Just what he needed. Well, let's get to work, said Toucan. Armadillo collected the chairs. He fastened and glued while Rat held the pieces together. Toucan and Sloth were pounding outside on the roof overhead. Bang, 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 tap, tap, bang. By late afternoon, the shingles were on and the door and the chairs were mended. I wouldn't recognize my house, said Sloth, spreading a tablecloth over the washtub. It's even more cozy and comfortable than before. He lit the candle on his cake. I don't have to wish again. My wish came true. What was it? Asked Rat. I wished you all were here, said Sloth, and here you are. He smiled at his friends and blew out the candle. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sloth. Happy birthday to you. That, my darlings, is the beauty of friendship. I hope you enjoyed the story as much as I have, and I will see you next time.